everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Accelerated ID series. My name is Shantae Skilldigger, and I will be your host for today's episode. So this week, we are back to talk about how do you get started filling those gaps? And there are multiple ways that you can fill in your instructional design skills and gaps. So it's really whatever works for you. And today, just so that you know, I'm not going to tell you which one I think is best. I'm just going to give you the facts and you can choose for yourself what you think is best. Okay. So we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about your self-study options. We're going to talk about some of the certificates in the academies out there, and then we're going to talk about master degree programs. So we're going to go through all three of these, and I'll give you some suggestions for each. And then at the end of this is up to you which path you go down. You may start down one and you might switch to something else, but I just want to equip you with some information. So one of the things that I recommend with self-study or a certificate program or a master's degree program, whichever path you choose, is for you to decide by when you want to make the transition. I encourage you to set a date for yourself too. By when do you want to make that transition? And this is really important for self-study because you're going to use that date as your anchor point, and you're going to work backwards from that date to create your game plan for your self-study. So let's say that by August 15th, you plan to have made your career transition. Well, August 15th is your anchor date. Today is February the 15th, right? So how many months is that? We've got March, April, May, June, July, August. You've got 6 months. So you've got to create a 6-month plan to get skilled up and knowledgeable in instructional design. You practice, build your portfolio, and apply for those jobs in order to make that transition. So pick a date and create your game plan. All right, let's see here. Plug into some communities. So just like you're plugged into this community, the Hangout for Aspiring Instructional Designers, there are many other communities out there. It's important to plug in communities because you'll encounter experienced instructional designers. You'll see some of the chats that they put out there. You'll see some of the resources that they're putting out there, and you can learn from them. Check out the LinkedIn groups. Check out the Reddit groups. You can learn from all of these different communities. I also encourage you down your self-study path, or even if you move into certificate or master's degree, participate in as many free events as you can. So a lot of program owners out there put on free events. You can join your local ATD chapter. If you don't know who ATD is, this is the world's largest talent and development organization. So you should definitely Google ATD, learn about ATD. You don't have to get the big national membership in order to join a local chapter. You can just join a local chapter. And by doing so, you get access to other educational events that you can plug into. And typically an annual membership to an ADT chapter is pretty inexpensive. So I encourage you to check out the ATD chapters, participate in free events, participate in free training sessions. Check out LinkedIn Learning. There's typically quite a few training resources out there on LinkedIn Learning. And in case you didn't know this, many of the local libraries will give you access to LinkedIn Learning. So you can go to your local library. If you have a library card, you can sit down, you can plug into LinkedIn Learning and check out some instructional design courses without having to pay for that yourself. Watch YouTube videos, right? So just like we have a YouTube channel where we're posting all of our recordings, other people do that too. So you could check out Tim Slade's YouTube recordings. You could check out Devlin Peck's. There are so many really great resources out there that can help you self-study. Check out podcasts. One of the podcasts that I like is the Instructional Designers in Offices Drinking Coffee. So they just are kind of funny and they kind of quip back and forth and talk about relevant topics in instructional design. For someone who's starting out in instructional design, this might be a little bit more advanced, but that's okay because you're still getting immersed in instructional design. You're learning the lingo. You're learning what's important to instructional designers who are out there practicing. So I encourage you to check out some podcasts, read blogs, read books, right? Here are three books that I personally recommend. Before I recommend any book, I always read it first to make sure that I am in alignment with whatever it is that they are saying. So the first book here is Design for How People Learn. This is by Julie Dirksen. We actually did a book study on this book here in the Hangout last fall, and Julie came in and finished up our last session with us. So that was really awesome. So Design for How People Learn is really great for all levels of instructional designer. This is a book that really has something for everybody in it. Whether you are a brand new aspiring instructional designer who wants to soak in all the things about instructional design, or you're an intermediate instructional designer, or you are a super experienced instructional designer, there is something in this book for you. I can almost promise you that. I've been in instructional design for a long time, and I picked up a lot of really awesome little golden nuggets throughout this book. The next book that I recommend is Training from the Back of the Room. So this one is really set up about facilitating and getting out of the way and letting learners learn. However, it really takes a step back and tells you how to set up that learning experience to really maximize learning. It talks about the cognitive neuroscience. It talks about how you engage the learner, how you connect the learner to the concepts, how you connect the learner to other learners, right? It talks about practicing and how you really move what it is that they're learning into that long-term memory. So this is one of my very, very favorite books. And whenever I hire new people onto the team, this is a book that I often give them because it really does, it does a phenomenal job of breaking down the nuts and bolts of creating the learning experience, explaining why you do what you do, and then how to deliver that. And as instructional designers, a lot of times we don't facilitate training, but we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the facilitator and imagine how that learning experience would play out. So it's good to go through a book like this that talks about those things so that you can imagine it while you are writing. Now, the other book here by Tim Slade is the eLearning Designer's Handbook. This is another really great book. It's really great at introducing you to e-learning, but not just that, like Tim really gets into instructional design principles, from the analysis to writing the project brief, all of those things. So these are three great books for those of you who want to self-study, and even for those of you who are going to go through certificate programs or even master degree programs. So you also need to practice. You can't just learn instructional design. You have to do instructional design. You need to practice instructional design. You need to fail a whole bunch. You need to fail forward in order to become a really strong instructional designer. So just put yourself out there, practice, volunteer to do some a learning experience design for your church or an organization that you are a part of. Or if you have a friend who's a business owner, volunteer to create something for them. And then I also recommend that you find a mentor. Find a mentor who will be there to answer your questions. Find a mentor who will review your work for you and give you feedback so that you can grow. Like, that is such a valuable component to have whenever you are developing your skills and your knowledge as an instructional designer. So these are some suggestions for self-study. Now let's move over into some of the certificate programs and the academy programs that are out there. Now, before I dive into this, I do want to disclose, I want to be transparent that yes, the instructional design company does have its own certificate program. Now, even knowing that, I'm going to try to be very neutral and just deliver the facts to you, the things that I suggest that you look for. And then again, this, I'm not putting any pressure on anyone, whether it's self-study, certificate academy, or master's degree. I just want to equip you with the information so that you have it and you'll make an informed choice for yourself based on your circumstances, your time, and your money. Okay. All right. So for Certificate Academy, a lot of these can run anywhere from 8 weeks to 9 months in order to complete the work in them. And they can run anywhere from $1,000 to $6,000 or $7,000, right? So they kind of vary in how long they take and how much they cost. My suggestion to you is that you choose, if this were the path that you were going to go down, if you were evaluating certificate programs or academies, I would recommend that you choose something that is affordable and doesn't have any hidden cost. Sometimes, whenever you start looking at some of these sales pages for the different academies, it'll say, oh, you can get in for X dollars. And then you select that. And then it will take you to another page and says, oh, for another $100, you can get a certificate. Or for another X amount of dollars, you can have work reviews. Or for another X amount of dollars, you can get XYZ. So I recommend that you just find one that is affordable and there aren't any hidden costs so you don't have any surprises along the way. I also recommend that you find one that has a game plan for you, that has everything laid out. Step one, you're going to do this, then you're going to go on and do this, and then you're going to go on and do this. Because one of the beautiful things about a certificate program or an academy program is that it takes all the guesswork out for you and it just steps you through, like, oh, you need to learn this. These are the types of things that you need to be able to do as an instructional designer. And these are the kinds of things that you should have in your portfolio. So we're going to help you build those. So look for that kind of information in a certificate program. You also want to make sure that it has a very robust curriculum. You don't want anything that kind of treads lightly on the surface of instructional design. Like, you're not looking for a taste test in instructional design. You're looking for a program that's actually going to develop your skills and your knowledge. So find something that has in-depth curriculum for you. And then choose something that provides you some control over your learning, right? In some cases, some of your academies have drip sequences. So in week one, you do X. In week two, you do Y. In week three, you do Z. And then in other programs, it'll allow you to move as quickly or as slow as you want. Or some have very set structured coaching calls. And others, you have to sign up for different things. You have to register. So just find one that gives you some control of that learning experience so that you can adapt it and mold it around your life. You also want to look for support by real people with experience. Sometimes it's nice to be able to go, I'm stuck. Who can help me? And just be able to hop onto a Zoom call and get some support from someone. So look for a program that provides that for you. Again, just like I mentioned with self-study and the practice and finding a mentor who could do reviews for you, many of your certificate programs and your academies offer this component. So look for one that will review your work and provide really good quality feedback. One thing to avoid is sometimes you will encounter programs that bring in brand new graduates out of their program, like from the previous cohort, and then those are the people that are doing the mentoring and the coaching. That's not bad. That's better than nothing, but it's even better if you can get paired up with someone who's experienced in the industry, who has experience in a corporate or higher ed setting. So just look for that if you choose a certificate or an academy program. And then choose one that has a community. It's so nice to have a tribe of your people who are going down the same path that you are, for support and motivation. Oftentimes we see our accelerators, for example, sharing resources or sharing links to events that are coming up. So these are all really nice components to have. And then the last suggestion that I would leave you is, if you choose a program or a certification program that's not from ATD, because ATD, again, the world's largest talent and development agency, has certificate programs. If you choose a program other than the ATD certificate program, check to see if that certificate or that academy is a pre-approved education provider of ATD education credits. Because if you choose a certificate program that is a pre-approved provider of ATD education credits, then that can provide dual credit for you. You'll get your certificate in the program that you were in, and then you'll get education credits that also count towards one of ATD's certification programs. So that's a nice win-win, right? So then the last component is the master degree. Okay. All right. So with the master degree, this is a great option for you to have, but you don't need it to transition to instructional design. If you already have an undergraduate degree, most jobs do not require a master's degree in instructional design. So you can make the transition into instructional design without going back to school and getting another degree. The reason that I encourage people to not go and get the master's degree is because once you make that transition, a lot of times employers have tuition reimbursement programs. Or if you become an instructional designer in higher ed, you could practically get your master's degree for free. Or if you're in corporate, you don't have to pay the full price because they will give you some kind of tuition reimbursement typically based on what your grades are. So you can let your future employer pay for that master's degree. All that you need for right now is that you need the skills and the knowledge to do instructional design work. You've already got an undergraduate degree, so you don't have to have that next degree. But if you really want it, then wait until you get into the job and let them check. Of course, you do have to check to see if they have tuition reimbursement because not all employers have this, but many of them do. In almost every higher ed setting that I am aware of, they have it. So I would wait on this and I would get skilled up in instructional design another way. And then I would let my employer help me pay for the more costly approach. Once you do choose opt into a master's degree program, also choose one that's more corporate focused. Now, none of them are going to say corporate focused, but there are some that are very clearly education focused. So if you want to work in a higher ed or you want to work in a corporate setting, having a master's degree in something related to K through 12 isn't necessarily going to be helpful to you. Okay. So you want to really check that out. So you can check out things like training and development. You can check out instructional design. You can check out organizational development, things like that. Those are all things that are related to instructional design. You also want to make sure that you evaluate the technology that is covered because sometimes it'll say instructional technology or something like that. And then they never cover Storyline, they never cover Captivate, they never cover Rise. They cover things like Google or PowerPoint or things like that. So you really want to check into what the technology is because you're going to need the technology that people actually use on the job. And then you also want to evaluate the type of support offered, right? With instructional design, like I said before, there's a lot of failing forward. So you want to have access to people who can help you. One of the degree plans that I was looking at this morning actually had mentorship that was included, which I thought was really nice whenever I was doing this research. So look for programs that offer some sort of support so that you can get some guidance along the way. And then, of course, choose an affordable option, right? You don't need to spend $100,000 on a master's degree in instructional design. It's not going to make you're not going to get a ginormous pay increase because you paid for a really expensive master's degree out there. So I recommend, again, these are all Shantae suggestions. If you talk to somebody else, they're going to have different suggestions. But my recommendation is that you would choose an affordable option. All right. So those are the three primary paths that I often see aspiring instructional designers go down: self-study, certificate or academy, and then the master's program. So any of those three are right. It's just whatever is right for you or the most right for you right now. One might be right for you right now and another one might be right for you later. So just evaluate the options and choose the one that works best for you, your life, your budget, and your timeline. And then just as we always close out, we do have a certificate program. Ours is a 4-component system. It has a really robust curriculum with lifetime access, weekly live coaching. We do work reviews and we do feedback. And we have an amazing community of people that help each other, love each other, and support each other. So you can check that out at acceleratedid.com/system or send me a DM and I'd be happy to answer any questions for you about that. Now, again, we're going to be back next Wednesday and we're going to be talking about applying for ID jobs that you are actually qualified for. So we'll talk about what the tools are that you need and what it means to be actually qualified.